What's up, guys? I'm doing a series of video classes on various educational platforms, sharing with you the postdoc projects that I have been working on and I still am. If you're interested in brainwaves, cellular waves, AGI ASI, as in the future of artificial intelligence, robotics, and the combination of these fields that I just mentioned, tag along. I'll also timestamp these videos so it'll be easier for you to jump over if you're interested in parts of the discussions more than the others. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'd be curious to know whether you find these videos valuable or not. And I'll do more classes. Hope you enjoy it. Let's start. In 2013, I started entertaining the idea of combining human waves, as in brain waves, and cellular waves with the machines, as in artificial intelligence and robotics and search engines or any systems that we come across as humans. In 2015 was the first time I publicly spoke about it. It was at the Smart Data Conference in San Jose, California, where I briefly talked about the machines becoming the extension of human body, machines becoming the extension of human brain. Now, this is not a new topic. Brain-computer interfaces have existed for the past 20 to 30 decades. They have done an amazing job helping people with severe disabilities to be able to use their brain waves to, for example, either communicate or operate different tools that they're using on a daily basis. And so before we jump into the conclusion that this would be an evil thing to do, I'd like you to hear me out about some of the amazing opportunities that science, a combination of science and technologies, can and will bring us humanity, and that not everything is evil. I myself, I am humanity first, human first, and that's why I'm passionate about these projects, because many people fear the entanglement of these machines with humans in the future. But I'm here to share with you the positive aspect of it and how we as humans also bear the responsibility to use it to our benefits as opposed to use it for evil purposes. A quick introduction about science, which goes back many centuries. If you look at the history, it's very clear that no scientist started their work to be evil. If it was used down the line for evil purposes, it was not the pure intention of the scientists. In fact, all the scientists that I know, their first and foremost intention is humanity. So humanity is helping humanity to evolve. Humanity is helping humanity to become better. And that, in conjunction with technology, we create tools such as inventing the wheel or inventing telescopes, for example. I was watching the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction by astrophysicists sharing it, for example. And so you and I, both as consumer and or enabler, bear the responsibility to use sciences for the good of humanity as opposed to the evil part. So each and every one of us has that responsibility to be the change, because we are the change. So I'm hoping that with these classes, as well as many other classes, that some light is shed on that part of the science, that it doesn't need to be all that evil. It could actually enable us and enable humanity to achieve amazing things in the future. In the field of BCI, or brain-computer interfaces, Essentially, there are tools, let's say there are different computers, and scientists and technologists, they have invented and created ways in which the individual's brain can be connected through wires and sometimes also wireless with different tools. For example, they can look at different alphabets on the screen and in that way tell and communicate to others what they want or what they mean, because maybe they cannot speak or maybe they cannot use their body or body language to communicate. And so that technology and that basis is. We also use the word neurofeedback. Let's look at it briefly to see what it means. Essentially, neurofeedback is any time you have a device that collects or observes human brain waves, alpha, gamma, beta, or any other brain waves that the individual may elicit at that point in time. And that observation of the brain waves is either for calculating or measuring certain things, or just observing it, or gathering data because there are certain things that the scientists want and need to do. And that is also used a lot in the field of neuroscience, but also in the field of cognitive psychology, etc. The term biofeedback says exactly what it says. It is collection of the biology or the cellular part of the body. For example, heart rate is one of them, or the amount of sweat we have on our skin, for example. And there are also a lot of devices out there available to scientists, but also available actually to consumers, where we can measure our heart rates, or the way in which, for example, we even move our hands, hand movements, gestures, even our eyes, how we move our eyes, or facial expression. All of that is not from the brain is called biofeedback. A combination of the two, you can call it NeuroBiofeedback, that I use a lot because it kind of embraces all the parts that I'm working on. That is when you're collecting both brain waves but also cellular waves. In this case, you're collecting brain waves as well as heart rate and GSR, which is what I just talked about. Pupil movements, facial expressions, etc. All of that tells us various type of information about people, about their emotional stance, about their emotional reactions at that time, about their cognitive reaction at that time. And for scientists, these type of data, because they study the human behavior, is extremely important. That's how we've been able to advance a lot of our psychology. Now, what is AGI and ASI? Assuming that you already know what AI is, AGI and ASI was just two names that scientists came up with, and that name may or may not change, which stands for artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. And essentially, it's prediction of our scientists and technologists that in the future, the robots that we will be having, that will be working, or the machines that we'll be working with, they are going to be much smarter. For example, they will be not only be able to teach themselves certain information because of all the data that we're feeding them, but they'll be able to also make smarter decisions, more logical decisions, and as a result be better decision maker that maybe I was going to say to be able to be a better decision makers than humans. Many believe that the AGI and ASI in the future, and when I say future, we're only talking about 5-10 years from now, so it's not way in the future. But many believe that these will be much smarter than humans. And I think that's where a lot of fear comes in, because people feel like they will be replaced by AI. Whether that happens or not, I cannot predict that. But what I can and what I will stand for is humanity, is the way in which we could actually be proactive about it now, so that we don't end up in those situations where we feel not in control. And so that's one of the reasons for my postdoc, which is independent, by the way. I am working on that part where I've introduced ideas to use the brain waves and the cellular waves to connect to the machines and to communicate at the emotional brain waves and cellular waves level, so that these machines become more of an extension of us as opposed to more of a controller of us, if that makes sense. When I first started talking about it in 2015, at that point in time, it was a little bit far-fetched, because our wearables, the devices that we wear, for example, a smartwatch or a smart ring, they were not as elaborate and as developed and as cutting edge as they are today. However, today's wearables are much smarter than they were even 5 years ago, and they are able to collect not only neurofeedback, but also not only biofeedback, I should say, but also neurofeedback. And they are able to wirelessly collect that data and connect it to certain AIs, and in this case, machines. Now, why would we want to do that, you may ask? One of the main reasons is because the human emotions is really lacking in a lot of the development of technologies that we're seeing today in, for example, AI and robotics. But when we look at the psychology of human beings have been shown over and over to be emotional beings as opposed to logical beings. Most of our decisions, if not all of them, are based on emotions. Whether we like it or not, science has shown it to us, and there are many studies and research to back it up with. Knowing that, if we build systems that are just based on computerized logical system, we won't be looked at it as a holistic entity as a human being is. And so for that reason, one of the main data points that is missing among all these data points that we are feeding AI, feeding robots, is actually the brain waves and the cellular waves of the human emotions. A system is not intelligent if it does not include emotions. Most of human beings, those who are very successful, if you look at them, they're actually emotionally more intelligent than maybe their peers in comparison to them. That is because it gives them a lot of cues. And that is what distinguishes humanity from all the other species. And so if we think of it that way, knowing that the wearables that we have today is much more sophisticated than they were years ago, and knowing that possibly implants are coming, and don't get scared because I don't think it's going to be mandatory. But knowing all that and knowing how science and technology hand in hand are evolving, it's really not far-fetched to be able to create machines who are communicating with humans at that level, at the emotional wave level, human emotion waves level, through NeuroBiofeedback. And that, in that way, the communication, the exchange of waves among the two is going to be much more elaborate and will have usage and ramification that is beyond our imaginations in the future. That will potentially help humanity much more than we would be able to even imagine today. And that is what the postdoc that I'm working on, because through wearables, we are able to collect this data, feeding that into the machine. Let's say in this case, it's an AGI robot that is smart. Us being able to communicate through that so that the machines understand us better, but also we understand them better. And the ramification and the technology and the usage of these type of interaction among humans and machine is just limitless. And there are ways in which we are able to distinguish between specific parts of the brainwaves, whether they are, depending on their frequencies, on the type of frequencies there are, as well as the type of the biofeedback that we're getting from humans. We are able to some extent, determine the emotional states and emotional communication that, for example, an individual is emanating at a point in time, feeding that into the machines. So we are able to feed in much more sophisticated and holistic data, in addition to all the other data that we are feeding the AGI and ASI of the today and the future. And as scientists, and also I believe many technologists, because our intention is for the good of humanity, that is one of the main reasons that a lot of us are working on these humanitarian efforts. Nonetheless, the usage of it in the future, it's really up to you and up to me. It's up to each and every one of us, because we are the change. And I think that in 2020, a lot of us evolved because of all the global unfortunate events that happened. And so I strongly believe in humanity in the future, of us being able to take back the control as opposed to giving it away, and be more humanitarian because of it. This video was just an introduction to give you an eagle-eye view as to what the whole topic is about. In the next video or next class or next session, I'll be talking more about the details, starting with neurofeedback. What are different brainwaves, for example? What do they mean at the cognitive and emotional level of a human psyche? And then I'll be talking about biofeedback. What do they mean? Facial expression of humans, what do they mean? And also I'll be tying that back in every time in every session with AGI and ASI, and see how that it will be able to be combined in the future. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. I read every single comment because I'm curious as to what you guys think, and also how I can improve the videos. I want to make sure that it has as much value to you as possible, so that if you give me constructive feedback how I can improve the videos, I really appreciate it. And I also would like to ask everybody to be very respectful in their comments. Trolls and disrespectful comments will not be tolerated, and I will also turn off some of the comments if I see if they are inappropriate. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.